Even though I was starting to become a better leader, I was starting to empower others, the practice was growing in a beneficial way. I still wasn't feeling the way I wanted to be. And so I started to tune in again, and I started to still see that frustration that I would see with my patients. And I saw that there was a real problem in this world. And that problem is that we just don't learn this stuff well in dental school. And I felt for my patients and I wanted them to get better care. And I know every dentist out there wanted to care for their patients even better, but they were just not given the right resources. Well, hello, beautiful friends of the universe. Welcome back to the University of Why, a podcast that's truly a reflection of you. Together, we're going to explore the core motivations behind our choices, the purpose behind our pursuits, and the beliefs that shape who we truly are. Together with you, I want to question everything. And that's really the basis of this show. And so as I sit here and I've been contemplating, how do I want to really kick off this podcast series? I've been thinking about my circle of life. And for those of you who don't really know what a circle of life is, if you can imagine a wheel and every spoke on the wheel pretty much kind of correlates with a different category of your life. So in 2019, I did this thing called Lifebook. And we went through the 12 categories of life, and I'm going to read them off to you so that you kind of understand the different categories. And I think this is where you're going to see this podcast kind of go down these paths and where we're going to start to question things and kind of understand where we are in these categories and how we got here and how we can even change these things with intention for the future. So the 12 categories of life to me, because of my exposure to Lifebook, start with health and fitness. Health and fitness, and then intellectual category, my emotional self, my character, my spiritual side, my love relationships, parenting, social life, my financial life, my career, my quality of life, and then my life vision. And so when I was reflecting the other day and kind of filling in which one of these spokes of the wheel actually encompassed the majority of my life or just had such a big prominence in my life, it really came down to career. My career has probably been the biggest bucket, and I now have this time and space to reflect on why. And so I figured today's episode would be a perfect place to start about the career. And have you ever asked yourself, why did you choose the career that you did? Again, we're going to be going through all the different areas of life through this podcast. But for me to start here with my career felt really fitting. And some of you listening, because a good bit of my people right now are dentists, and that'll probably change with time. But I'm a dentist, and getting to this point has been a really interesting part of my story. I've already shared with you that I am of Indian descent. I live in America. I was born here. But with that, part of my journey came with parameters. My destiny was kind of already created. My mom is actually a doctor. She's an anesthesiologist. And it was very important to my parents that I ended up in medicine. So they saw medicine as a security. And so that part of my path was already destined for me. It was already paved for me. My parents made that choice for me, but they didn't really care if I picked medicine or dentistry. They probably would have been okay with law or engineering. They just wanted me to go to a graduate school and get to graduate level. And when I look back and see my path, there was a very distinct moment in my life that made me choose dentistry. And I experienced this for a reason now because of what I've done with my path. And a lot of this was very unaware. I had no idea. I was just kind of following this inner guide. And this inner guide is something that I'm going to be talking to you about a lot because I feel like it's something that we forget to connect with, but I want you all to connect with it. So, growing up, I had a lot of problems with my teeth. I was like the textbook patient, as a dental patient. I was born without 8 teeth. People can have congenitally missing teeth. I had the most common congenitally missing teeth. So I was missing not my front teeth on the top, but the two right next to it on either side. I was also missing some teeth on the bottom. And lucky me, I was actually missing my wisdom teeth. So 4 out of the 8 was kind of a benefit, but the other 4 had a pretty big impact on my life. And every time I went to the dentist, I felt like I always had a cavity. I know a lot more of that now. I'm pretty sure my hygiene at the time wasn't great, but I was always a dental patient. And it gave me an insight into the other side of how my patients, are responding to me. I get it at a different level than some dentists who have never had a cavity. But this experience of always going to the dentist, always having an issue, had an impact on me. Now, fast forward, because you don't really realize what missing teeth, what kind of an impact it's going to have on you until later when you're kind of in through your growth and development. But I finally started to feel the lack of confidence because of my smile. And I think my mother could pick up on that. So she wanted to make sure that I got a full complement of teeth. Like she wanted to really fix my dentition before I went to college. So it was the summer of 1995. I had just graduated high school. I was on my way to packing things up to go to college, but my mom was very interested in making sure that I got my teeth fixed before I left. Maybe it had to do with her insurance. She wanted to make sure that I was still on her plan. I still had a few more years in that, but at the same time, I know like life was just going to get harder as I was in and out of the house. So this was our last opportunity. So I got my missing teeth filled back in with bridges. It was a long time ago. So things like dental implants and that kind of stuff didn't really exist, or they were just coming onto the scene. There wasn't that much hard evidence for it yet, but we felt like this was the best solution for me at the time. And soon after, I started to develop a really vague pain. And then the pain kind of escalated and it would get bad at times. And I would go to the dentist and the dentist could not find anything. And this went on for several months and I would get a toothache and I would come home from college and we couldn't find anything that was wrong. I would go back to school, get the toothache again, and it was really starting to impact my studies. I ended up seeing several different doctors, and I remember this very clearly, how nobody could really give me an answer. And then they would just kind of pass the buck. And then the next person who really truly didn't understand my story would then say, they don't know. I would continuously get no diagnosis and be sent on my way or given a referral to another specialist. So I kept getting bounced around from provider to provider. And so I started to not really trust my body. I couldn't understand what my body was trying to tell me. And it just got more and more confused by seeing all these different providers. Eventually, my pain got so bad, and I ended up getting an abscess because treatment had been delayed. And I went back to the dentist. He said, there's nothing I can do. We're going to have to take out a tooth. He sent me to the oral surgeon. I remember the oral surgeon saying to me, or to my mom really, that he was very hesitant to take the tooth out because there was actually nothing wrong with the tooth. The tooth was structurally sound. It was beautiful. I was just in pain and nobody had an answer. And the oral surgeon was like, well, I guess I'm just going to have to listen to the instructions. My mom is really kind of nervous. She just wants her child out of pain. She just instructs the surgeon to take my tooth out. Follow the instructions. This is what the other dentist said to do. And so my tooth came out I felt good for about 2 hours because I was numb. But as soon as my anesthesia wore off, I had the same pain and I was devastated. Now, I know I'm kind of going through this story a little bit fast, but this has already been months, probably close to 9 months of seeing several different providers, having on and off pain, and now the pain is here with like it's in my face. I can't sleep. I'm starting to get a fever. I'm swollen, and they take out a tooth and it just happens to be the wrong tooth. At this point, now I'm missing 9 teeth, right? And the doctors are like, okay, we can't take any more teeth out. So why don't we send her to an endodontist? And I'm like, what is an endodontist? Well, apparently an endodontist is a root canal specialist. And I went to one root canal specialist and I was just in so much pain. And I was probably a hysterical mess. I don't remember the exact specifics of my state of mind, but I do remember this endodontist getting very frustrated with me and throwing his instruments down and basically telling my mom that he can't treat me. Now, I'm from a very small town, and that small town only has 2 endodontists. So I went to the second endodontist next. And wow, this guy was so cool. He had his dental practice in this house. He was just chill. His vibe was cool. He had this demeanor about him. That was kind of demure, but also chill at the same time. He had this ponytail and he explained everything to me. And he was the first person to make a diagnosis. And in that moment, after all those months of pain, that diagnosis meant everything to me. And the way he talked to me, the way he educated me about my body and what I was experiencing and what my body was saying to me, all of a sudden I've reconnected with my body. And I just looked up at him and I admired him and I was like, wow. And then he got me out of pain. He ended up doing a root canal on me. I actually had cracked the tooth from clenching and grinding, probably from stress. I cracked the tooth behind the tooth that was treated with the bridge that I got to close the gaps in my teeth. And he did a root canal. He saved my tooth. He got me out of pain. He cleared up my infection. And I was like, whoa, like what just happened to me? And so I had this huge episode in my life that really kind of told me what to be when I grow up. And it was in line with what my parents told me to be when I grow up. And that was kind of cool. First of all, I just want to say, like, it kind of sucks that your path is picked for you. But at the same time, I'm kind of grateful that my path was picked for me because now, as I'm talking to my own children and I'm saying, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I realize that is probably one of the most difficult decisions that you can make in your life, especially in a time in your life where you don't really know. You don't really know all the signals that are coming at you. You can't really connect to your body. You can't really understand all the things that are happening and make sense of it. So for me to ask my daughter right now, like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, you're going into 10th grade. We have to try to figure out what college we want to go to and why, right? And so I didn't realize that this episode in my life was going to have such an impact on what I do until years later. So I'm in college. I have no idea what I want to be. I remember sitting there with the book of majors and trying to figure out what my major was going to be. And I had a task, and my task was I'm going to apply to dental school. I knew that I didn't want medical school because I didn't want a heavy call schedule. I saw what that did to my mom. Granted, she's an anesthesiologist, and her call schedule was probably more crazy than other types of doctors, but I just knew that that's what I didn't want. And I felt like I could connect to the person in the dental chair, the patient, because I'd been a patient so many times. And so my path was dentistry. And I always say it like dentistry was my form of my arranged marriage. But I found a way to fall in love with it. So For me, that pain, that toothache, that abscess had such a deep impact on me. And it also taught me what kind of professional, what kind of provider, what kind of caregiver, what kind of healer I wanted to be, and what kind of healer I didn't want to be. And once I got into my own practice, because I got into dental school, which was super fun. I had a blast in dental school. I've learned so much about myself in dental school. I didn't pay attention to it, but I learned so much about myself in dental school. Had so much fun, learned a lot, decided that I was going to go into endodontics or root canals, and then got into my endo residency. And we can talk about that path one day. But then once I became an endodontist, I opened my own practice. And now I opened my own practice in 2008. So I went through my saga in 1995, and then I opened my practice in 2008. So a lot of time has passed. And then as I'm going through my practice, as I'm treating patients day by day, I see my own tooth story. I see people not being diagnosed. I see people bouncing around from provider to provider. And I'm like, wow, so much time has passed and we still have this same problem and nobody's doing anything about it. So I started to get this feeling of frustration in me, and it would fuel me every day. I still have it. And but I was recognizing that I had this kind of fire, this frustration that was leading me day by day in my practice. Now, my practice started to grow. I was a startup and I didn't know anything about leading a team. If I were to say there are two of the biggest containers, maybe three of the biggest containers in my life that have taught me so much, I would say my practice has taught me so much. It has been a sacred container that I would say I haven't really fully respected until recently because I was very frustrated in it. My marriage has been a sacred container where I've learned so much. And motherhood. These three buckets, these three containers constantly teach me so much. And we're going to talk about all of this. We have endless episodes to talk about this and to be truly honest and truly transparent. But let's go back to the career, because we're going to talk about the career container. Because when you graduate dental school and medical school, I'm assuming, you kind of just know the surface level of your craft. And then that's why they call it practice, right? Because you're in practice, you continue to practice, and that just gives you that experience. And I will have to say, like, I hit a ceiling at 3 years, and then I thought, okay, that was all I needed to learn. And then I hit another one at 5 years, and then another one at 10 years, and another one at 15 years. Now I feel like every year I hit a new ceiling and I learn something new every single time. I saw in my practice that I wasn't a good leader. I didn't know how to lead. I also realized like how much energy I was collecting in a day. And I probably have that reflection just recently. I used to say dentistry was physically intensive, which it is, but I want to change that now. Dentistry, or anytime you're caring for somebody, it could be medicine, it could be anything. To me, it's an energetic profession. And there's so much exchange of energy in a day that I didn't realize. I've never considered myself an empath, but I am an empath. And all day I absorb energy, give off energy, and that is what exhausts me. And I didn't realize all of this. I just thought it was burnout. And for me now, I feel like it's just, okay, I have to pay attention to my energy. So as I'm watching my patients struggle, trying to find care, getting a root canal that doesn't work from somewhere else, and then us having to fix it, being upset about their bill. Why do I have to pay for this twice? I want to sue that dentist. There's just so much energy. I'm terrified. I don't want to do it. I haven't taken care of my teeth because I'm terrified. These are all true levels of energy that people experience and they bring to the dental office. And again, I was unaware of it. And so I didn't pay attention to it, but now I'm aware of it. And then you collect all that energy and you're trying to do your best as you're trying to heal. And then you have your team and you're trying to be a leader, but you are also collecting all this energy from your patients and you're simultaneously trying to lead a team and manage. And wow, that nearly killed me. That is probably the hardest thing in the world. And if people wonder why dentists have like a high suicide rate, this is probably it. It's really managing all of these energies at the same time and having not an awareness of that it's even happening. That's what as I reflect now, 16 years into owning my own practice, I realized that that is what was happening. And it's my career, this container of a career that taught me all of this. And I think that's the beauty of the struggles in my career. So I opened my practice. I was a horrible leader. I had a ton of turnover. I was just not the person that I wanted to be. And then one day, I only had 3 employees. I had just signed on another doctor because I was like drowning in the work. And I thought that was going to solve my problems. That's a whole nother story. But I signed on another doctor. He wasn't coming on for a few months, but I had 3 employees. I just found out I was pregnant with my second child. And 2 out of the 3 employees gave me their notice on the same day. And I was like, oh, how am I supposed to rebuild this? Luckily, your life gives you angels, and I have an angel. Her name is Michelle. And I love her to pieces. She is my OG dental assistant. She started my practice with me and she's still with me. And I hope she never leaves my side because we are a dynamic duo. But she and I did it together. We got out of that rut. We grew the practice from the 2 of us to like 18 people. But there was a lot of growth that happened. This career has taught me so, so much. And it forced me to look inside at me and to become a better leader, not just to others, but to myself. And I think that's really, really important. And I know that I had to experience my burnout in my practice to be able to go and do the work. So if you're feeling burnout and you're wondering why, then maybe it's because the universe is telling you to go do some inner work. Because that's what the universe was telling me. And the universe was telling me to really start paying attention. Now, a lot was happening in my life. My practice was growing, whether I liked it or not. My family was growing. My body was growing. I had 3 children. So I feel like for my entire 30s, I was just pregnant and big, and I lost control of my body. But my ideas were growing too. And I could tell, like, okay, even though I was starting to become a better leader, I was starting to empower others. The practice was growing in a beneficial way. I still wasn't feeling the way I wanted to be. And so I started to tune in again, and I started to still see that frustration that I would see with my patients. And I saw that there was a real problem in this world. And that problem is that we just don't learn this stuff well in dental school. And I felt for my patients and I wanted them to get better care. And I know every dentist out there wanted to care for their patients even better, but they were just not given the right resources. So I trusted myself, trusted my experience as a patient, picked dentistry, trusted myself again, opened my own practice. When I opened my practice, I trusted myself again. I'm like, why is not having this beautiful practice that's successful not enough? What am I missing here? I am still tired. I realize for me, I can't energetically handle dentistry 5 days a week. I can't do that and simultaneously be a mother. I just can't do it. My body can't handle it. And my body would tell me I would be exhausted. And to me, that's what the burnout was showing me, is that my body was tired and my body didn't want that. So I started listening to my body and I said, okay, for every child, I'm going to take a day off. So I started to take a day off. My second doctor came in that allowed me to give a day away. I started taking Wednesdays off. And then again, I have the second child, I have a third child, and then just life gets busy. And so I went from 5 days to 4 days to 3 days to 2 days, basically. But during that, I also started to say, like, there's something more inside of me that I'm not done doing. And I started to really question, like, is this everything? Is building my own practice really everything? I mean, I felt like I had hit the pinnacle. I have the dream job, according to my parents. I have the dream husband, which is true. And I have the 3 beautiful kids. I have the dream family. And that's true too. And according to my parents. But there was still something more in me. And I was like, what is this feeling? I wanted to do more. My impact had to be more. And so I started to pay attention to it. And I realized that I could do something about it. Or I could sit here, do nothing, or I could do something about it. And I did. And that's where I thought what was going to be a side hustle, just kind of creating this online course, because I was teaching a lot. I would volunteer my time at the local hospital at the residency for dentists. I would volunteer there. I volunteered there for 13 years and I truly loved teaching others. And I would teach them root canals because I didn't get that education that much in dental school. And so it really brought me joy to teach these dentists how to do better root canals. And then me and my other doctors in my practice, we would lecture, and we would lecture about root canals. And I realized that I really love that. But I'm like, why am I just doing this for people in Charlotte, in my town? Why am I not sharing this with everyone? I bet you a lot of people have this need for education. And so I've had some really influential people in my life. A good friend of mine, her name is Bonnie Hari. Some of you may know her as the food babe, but I would hang out with her all the time and I would watch her make moves in the food industry. And this was like years ago, a decade ago. And now I'm so proud of her. She's doing even more. And actually, her hard work is coming to fruition almost a decade later. And that's actually very inspirational to watch. So I know that the words that I say now may not impact until a decade from now. And that's totally okay. So as I started listening to my friends, seeing what they were doing, they were like, okay, like you don't have to do everything traditionally. Do something different. So I started to do something different. And I took all my knowledge, I packaged it up, and I created an online course. And when I tell you, my body knew, it was like this magnetic pull to this project. I would wake up at 5 in the morning and work till 9 in the morning when everybody was sleeping. And I loved it. It was dark out. It was silent. And I was just in flow. And everything just came out. And now sometimes I'm like, oh, I should add this to the course. And I go back and check. I'm like, oh, it's already in there. When I tell you I was in flow, I'm not kidding. It was just this magnetic pull because I listened and I did the thing. So then I created the course and it's called eSchool, Everyday Endo Made Easy. I basically teach general dentists how to do better root canals. And this was my side hustle. This was supposed to be in my free time. And once I got the program put together, then I got stuck. And I got stuck with imposter syndrome. And I didn't know what this word meant, but at the time it was like a hot word. And I'm sure everyone knows about it now. But I really thought, I'm like, okay, I look nothing like the educators that came before me. I am this Indian girl. I look little. People still think I'm the dental assistant and not the doctor. But I look little. Who's going to believe me? And getting over that hump was hard. But now, again, having been through this whole journey, I realized like you just have to start. And I'm always so proud of people when I see them just starting with a tiny idea and then they just sustain it. It is so beautiful to watch. And it takes years. It does take years. And even eSchool has taken me years. I've been doing it now. I launched it in 2019. It became an idea in 2016 after my real burnout. So 8 years into my practice, peeling myself off the floor, crying in tears, realizing that I wanted to give away the keys to my practice because I couldn't hold a team, because I felt like I had hit the pinnacle and that wasn't it. But all the universe is trying to tell me is that I just had to make a small pivot. I had to make dentistry my own because when I was given the opportunity for it, it wasn't my own. It was simply a task, but I've made it my own. And I've just kept on listening to get the clarity of how I need to do it my way. And so I don't know if any of you have had this contemplation in your life, if you've wondered, why am I up against so much resistance? Is there something else meant for you? And then I came across this concept of Ikigai. And after a while of doing root canals 10 times a day, you kind of get good at it, right? And so I started to love it because I got good at it. And that's kind of what Ikigai is about. What do you love doing? What are you good at? And what are the problems in the world that you truly care about and that you can contribute to solving? Let me say that one more time. Ikigai. What do you love doing? What are you good at? And what are the problems in the world that you truly care about and that you could contribute to solving? And for me, that was super easy all of a sudden. I love healing patients. I love regenerating their bone through a root canal. I love saving teeth. And I'm good at doing root canals. And I also love educating, and I'm a good educator. And that's really the true problem that I want to solve. Yes, I want to save people's teeth, but if I teach the other people who are saving teeth, then my impact is greater. And all of a sudden, I connected to my why. And I understood why my path was the way it is, was the way it was. And I have just allowed that feeling in me to continue to connect me and guide me on my path. My team will always call me an intuitive, but I do believe that this exists in every single person, every single human, every single soul, however you choose to see. And now I'm at another crossroads, right? This development of this side hustle that has actually turned into a living, breathing business. It's getting big. I could be on the verge of burnout again, but I'm now paying attention to how do I want to live with this? How do I want to sit with this? And I'm allowing it to unfold based on my feeling. I'm cutting things out, adding things, shifting things, changing things. I'm being very open to change. I'm being very open to growth. This podcast is also an example of that. This podcast is really, for me, an opportunity for me to connect with myself. I think that's really important because I actually have to slow down and have these moments to think about, hey, what do I want to say today? Instead of just flying through the day. And so, again, connecting with my Ikigai, launching eSchool was a big part of my career path. But going through that creation of a new thing taught me a lot. And now it's guiding me here. And I think that's so beautiful. And again, I think we don't even know what's possible until we go into the future 10 years from now and see the impact. Just like my friend, I don't think she realized what she was capable of or what she was actually going to do for our country 10 years later. So just pay attention to what's happening to you now. Nothing has to be figured out. I want to ask you to tune into your body as much as you can because there's so many answers there. How are you feeling at the end of the day? Was it hard? Were you drained? I used to ask myself that question all the time when I had no energy to play with my kids. Maybe something needs to change. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. I am the perfect example of someone who has kept one foot in dentistry, clinical dentistry, but still explored their passions, created a side hustle, and I do both. Some people have to leave it all together, and we're going to talk about those people. We're actually going to meet a few of those people on upcoming episodes. But there's ways to do it all. There's ways to leave. There's ways to completely shift, but there's also ways to make it your own. But if we forget to connect with ourselves, we won't know that answer. So when you think about where you are right now in your life and how you got here, reflect back on your pivotal moments. Identify those moments and really sit with them and sit with the feeling. It's not just what happened, it's actually the feeling and how your inner compass has guided you. And I hope that as we continue to talk through these conversations, we continue to get better at connecting with that inner compass. Ask yourself, what experiences have deeply shaped who you are today? When you look back, which moments made you feel the most alive and purposeful? And how can you translate that purpose into your everyday career choices? Think about that. Remember, the career bucket is just one of many, many buckets that we're going to discuss. But for me, it has been my most impactful bucket. It has been the bucket that has had the most presence in my life. And so that's why I thought it was important to reflect on that one today. Okay, guys, thank you so much for allowing me to share parts of my journey on where I've been, how I've done it, and where I'm about to go. Thank you for your time. I look forward to hanging out with you again soon. Bye-bye for now.